Oh, Dr. Ritter, we're ready.
100%.
Really?
Except for Glendale. No, he's not there.
Good evening. The Springfield Public Schools Board of Education May 6, 2014 study session is now in order. We'd like to welcome all our guests and staff in attendance this evening. Please let the record show that all members of the board are in attendance this evening, and please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will now move to agenda item number 2, special recognition. We have many very special recognitions this evening, and Dr. Ritter will bring those forward at this time.
Mr. Johnson, you're okay with waiting a little longer, right? Yeah. Most exciting time, of course, is to recognize students, and especially students of this level as far as scholarship. And with the exception of one, we have 100% turnout, which is awesome. I think it's the first time since I've been here that that's happened. So kudos to Central and Dr. Snodgrass. I don't know if you had anything to do with it or not, but anyway. It's great that you're here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce the program. Then I'm going to ask you as a student to stand up. You're going to introduce your parents. Okay? And then what you're going to do then is you're going to stand over to the side there. And then ultimately when all of you are announced, okay, then you're going to be greeted by the board. Okay? Got it? So the first one will put you in place and we can kind of follow. All right. This is the Missouri Scholars Academy. It's going to be held at the University of Missouri at Columbia this year. So the 2014 Missouri Scholars Academy will be held on June 8th through the 28th, and that's 2014. That's this year. The Academy provides a unique educational experience for our finest young scholars, and my understanding is they had to apply, write an essay, and eventually were accepted. So our winners this year from Central High School, Stephanie Bradshaw. Stephanie, where you at? Your parents here yet?
No, they're not coming.
They're not coming. Okay, so you can be over here and smile. Okay, thank you. All right. Also, Amelia Cabero. Amelia.
Hi.
And who do you have with you?
I have my mom, Ann, and then my grandma, Carolyn.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks. Come. Why don't you go ahead and become. Grace Debersmith. Introduce your parents.
This is my mom, Angela, and my dad, John.
Okay, welcome. Aaron Eisenhower. Aaron. Okay. Joseph Essman. Hey. Why don't you stand up, Susan, so everybody can see you in the second row there. Okay, good.
Oh, it's cute.
Sharon Lee. Sharon. Hi. Okay, welcome. Linton Park. Did I say that right? Allington Park. Okay.
I'm here with my mother, Mihan.
Ah. Hi. Andrew Phillips.
Hello.
Hi.
This is my mother, Susan Phillips, and my father, Kyle Phillips, back there.
Okay. Ben Rankin.
Hello.
Hi.
My dad's in the back, by Kyle.
Okay. Make yourself comfortable. Riley Seegers. Ah. Hi.
This is my dad, Shane, my granddad, Ben, and my little brother, Kate.
Okay. Hey, and Granddad, who were you with this for lunch today at school? Yeah. Okay, at Disney. Yeah. Catherine Simpkins. Hi. Okay. Okay. Like the way you introduced your dad, Doug. Wonderful. With us from Kickapoo, Joshua Mashburn.
I'm here with my mom, Billy, and my stepdad.
Why don't you stand up? Okay. Welcome. Charlotte, May. Okay. And then from Parkview, Christopher Hess.
This is my mom, Kimberly, my dad, David,
What about your brother?
my brother, John.
Okay. All right. Now with us this evening, as far as the academy, is Lewis Brown from Glendale. His parents are Kelly and Susan Brown. So anyway, at this time, I would like to everybody congratulate these people. Board members, if you're comfortable, why don't you just let them stand and you go greet them, as opposed to having them run all around. Oh, I forgot about Jerry. Oh,
I can handle it.
yeah, he can.
I can handle it.
He can handle it. Okay. I'm sorry, Jerry. Mr. Lee, I'm really sorry about that. Movement on the leg doesn't hurt you, though, I don't think. Not bad. You're not doing too bad. Students, I want to congratulate you, wish you well, and please remember where you're coming from. Not on behalf of us, but on behalf of your parents, as far as behavior is concerned this summer. I know you're going to behave very, very well. You're all students and you're all scholars. So anyway, I wish you well and congratulations again. And please be seated. We're going to have another group come on up. From June 8th through the 28th, we're going to have the Missouri Fine Arts Academy, and that's going to be at Missouri State this year, here in Springfield. It's a unique 3-week residential summer program for exceptional Missouri artists who have completed their sophomore or junior year of high school. Initiated in 1996, this program offers students the opportunity to enhance their skills in such fields as dance, visual arts, theater, and music, and to participate in a simulating series of interdisciplinary and co-curricular activities. So the students we have with us this evening, they're all from Central. And the first one is, what I'm going to ask you to do now is I'm going to ask you to stand up. You're going to tell us the art that you're involved in, okay? All right, and then you're going to introduce your parents, all right? So the first one is Leah Egeman. Leah.
I like to act and sing and dance.
Awesome.
This is my mom's parent.
Does your mom like to do that too?
She likes to watch it.
Watch it, okay. Oh, congratulations. Kara Elman.
Hello, I'll be
Hi.
going to the Academy for Vocal Music, and these are my parents, Mark and Nadine Elman.
Okay, well, congratulations. Troy Robertson.
Hi, I'm going to the Academy for Composing, but I'll also be doing vocal, instrumental, and theater. And these are my parents. This is my dad, Ferris, and my mom, Ruth.
Okay. Wow, I'd love to hear play and sing. Right? Okay. All right. Harper Vincent. Harper Vincent.
Hi, I was accepted for acting and vocal music, and that's my mom over there, and this is my sister, Darby.
Okay.
Her name's Angela. Sorry.
Students that are now with us, Hannah Duff, Robert and Mary Ann Duff, are her parents, and then Michaela Carr. Parents are David and Jo Beth Carr. Dr. Snodgrass, can you tell us what those two students can do as far as arts are concerned?
Good response.
Hannah's going for vocal. I think Michaela's going for
For visual arts, okay. Well, anyway, congratulations. This time we're going to have you go.
Kids help.
Congratulations. This time we'd like to have you go ahead and go through this way because there's only 4 of you. Come around this way, around the front. Yes, move. Yeah, there you go.
Come this way.
Go, okay, go around. Go around the front. The front.
It's easier. Yeah, thank you. Congratulations. That's great. Congratulations to you.
Yeah, very appropriate.
Best of luck. Congratulations.
Good job, girl. Proud of you.
Again, congratulations to these students, and I wish you well at Missouri State. And so, just for your information, you don't have to stay, but why don't we stay through the celebrations before you leave, because we're going to announce the Teacher of the Year here. You need to see who it is, okay? And so on that note, Mr. McKenna, please.
Well, good evening, Dr. Ritter, members of the board. It's my pleasure to introduce our 2014-2015 Teacher of the Year, Andy Johnston. I'm going to tell you a little bit about him and then give him the opportunity to answer any questions you have, as well as introduce his guest. He also has to get to a performance tonight, so we're going to let him sneak out after this recognition. So, Andy Johnston directs the Springfield Youth Symphony, the Glendale High School orchestras, and 5th grade orchestra at Field, Pershing, Sequoia, and Wilder. He is serving this semester as an instructor of violin at Missouri State University. He's in his 28th year of teaching strings, his 22nd in teaching in public schools, and his 17th year here in Springfield. Mr. Johnson graduated from Oklahoma State University, where he majored in music education and violin performance. He holds a master's degree in viola performance from Missouri State University, and he's done additional graduate work at Texas Tech University and a master's of music, from Missouri State University as well. During his tenure in Springfield, Mr. J has been an assistant conductor of the Springfield Youth Symphony from 1998 to 2001, the conductor of the Springfield Junior Youth Symphony from 2001 to 2006, and an instructor of viola at Missouri State University in 2007. In addition to teaching and conducting, Mr. J is active as a professional violist and violinist. He's a member of the American String Teachers Association, where he served on the State Board of Directors from 2005 to 2014. He's a member of the Missouri Music Educators Association, where he served as vice president from 2006 to 2008. And before coming to Springfield in 1997, Mr. J taught in the Enid, Oklahoma public school system and served as a concert master for the Enid Symphony Orchestra. He enjoys spending time with his wife, Elizabeth, who's with him this evening. She teaches orchestra for the district as well at Pershing Middle School and plays the violin professionally. Their children, who, as you may have guessed, are also strings performers, are Allison, who's a violinist, and Benjamin, who's a cellist. Mr. J enjoys an eclectic array of hobbies and interests, and these are the ones that he provided, I promise. They are cooking, caving, playing in the Sac River Bluegrass Band, memorizing the number pi, and driving the speed limit in front of high school students. So now please join me in welcoming to the podium and congratulating our 2014-2015 Teacher of the Year, Andy Johnston.
Thank you. I don't know what to say. It's quite an honor. My wife, Elizabeth, is the best orchestra teacher in the world. She's amazing. And everything I know about teaching orchestra, I learned from her. But it's an honor to be here. He said something about answering questions, which frightens me a little bit. But if you have any, I'll give it a shot.
Thank you. I think your resume says it all. I mean, that was intense. Way to go. Congratulations.
It is my pleasure to introduce you to Beverly Farrand and Gail Eubanks from Parkview High School, this year's winners of the Linda Luke Librarian of the Year Award. Beverly has been a library media specialist for 18 years and Gail for 13 years. They've made a team together at Parkview High School for 4 years. Together, they've made the Parkview Library the heart of the school for both students and staff. Gail and Beverly shine because they work to make the library a friendly and accessible place for all. They provide excellent customer service, extending their hours for improved access, including a Spark grant to expand the services that could be offered to students before and after traditional school hours. Gail and Beverly are collaborative and they're agile. They were the first in SPS to circulate e-readers as part of their library collection, and they continue to keep stretching the limits of what is possible in a school library. Please join me in congratulating Beverly Farron and Gail Eubanks.
Good evening. We have the opportunity to celebrate another educator this evening. I have known Ms. Hopkins for many years and been very pleased to have the opportunity to have worked with her out at Hillcrest High School, where she coached and taught, worked with our at-risk populations, and has been a counselor. She's being recognized this evening really at a national level. It says a state award, but Mr. Fisher will explain a little bit more to you about what this means. Mark?
Thank you, Dr. Harrell. Dr. Ritter, members of the board. Recently, we were notified that one of our coaches was going to receive a prestigious award, and it was a Coach of the Year award nationally. And the award is given by the National Basketball Coaches Association in conjunction with the Missouri Basketball Coaches Association. And the award goes to an individual who goes above and beyond the call of duty. And this year's recipient is Coach Jenny Hopkins from Hillcrest High School. Not only is Jenny an excellent coach, but she's an ambassador for women's basketball, not only in Springfield, but the state of Missouri. Jenny has been active in the Missouri Basketball Coaches Association, wearing many hats. She's served on the executive committee as a Southwest representative. She's been the secretary, vice president, and soon to be president-elect. So she's been very involved in the association. Jenny has also organized our Court Talk, which is our women's basketball coaches who get together twice a month to speak with our media and basketball enthusiasts about their season, about their players, and really promoting the sport of women's basketball. Jenny also hosts numerous clinics for our coaches and for our young students throughout Springfield and Southwest Missouri. And she informed me also that this summer she is going to take a group of young ladies to Australia to play in the Down Under games. So she's going to have a busy summer. So tonight, we want to recognize you and congratulate you on this outstanding award, but also thank you for all that you do for our young people and being a positive role model. Jenny Hopkins. And I can't resist. Mr. Renner, do I understand it was a positive day when Jenny moved out of the neighborhood?
Yes.
They were neighbors at one time, so.
Jenny, we also want to thank you for the food pantry and your work around that at Hillcrest. Thank you. You bet.
Our last celebration this evening is again working with Central High School. And Dr. Snodgrass, I have you step up. The Central High School math team has competed and earned a first place in the Missouri State High School math competition. And I'm going to have Ron talk a little bit about that and introduce those folks.
I'm just going to turn it over to Sue Haddon. Sue is our one of our math teachers at Central, and she's the coach, the sponsor of these fine students, and she can explain to you what they did to win this award and introduce our math team. state champions. Sue Haddon.
Good evening. We have put together we start practicing our math team in the fall, and we do several competitions during the year where our students have to qualify to go to the state competition. So you don't just automatically get to go. And then in April, we went and competed with 26 other schools who also sent qualifying individuals. And with me are 4 of my 11 team members where we won first place. We combined our scores together. They have a sweepstakes, and we won first place at the state math competition. Let me introduce Sharon Lee, John Carnahan, Healy Graham, Ben Liu, and Peter Sharp. All of these guys were really instrumental in our victory. And we will be competing next week in Kansas City in the Math League Championships, which include schools from California, Iowa, Nebraska, Saipan, which is east of Japan. And so we'll be a very hearty competition next week, and we'll see what happens there. Thank you very much.
Ms. Haddon, did you have any of these parents, kids in class? No, nobody else. I don't think so. Okay. They were okay. Okay.
We'll vouch for it.
You've been blessed then by that. Okay. Anyway, congratulations. And at this time.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And just before you will be excused to leave in just a few minutes. But just before you go, is there anyone on the board that has a question or a comment for any of these wonderful recognitions that we've had before us this evening? Anyone? Mrs. Bush?
What certainly reinforces the reason why we're here is to see students like you who have done well and have gone on with great expectations. And we support you and encourage you to continue that drive. And thank you for all the work that you've done, and best wishes in your future endeavors. So thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. And to some of the staff that we recognize tonight, after hearing everything you've done, it makes me think you've had 2 or 3 lifetimes in education with all your work, and we know that sometime in there you try to figure out some time for your family and friends and for yourself. But it's just amazing the work you do, and we always want to do everything we can to make sure you know how much we support you and what you do in the schools. So thank you very much. So we will be moving into the strategic discussion section of our meeting, and you're more than welcome to stay and listen to what we have to say. But if you would like to leave at this time, you're free to go.
Our feelings aren't hurt. It's a full room. Give some of your staff.
Shake the hand.
Most of these people have never been here.
You can shake the hand.
Never shake your hands with a mathematician. I guess. Oh, yeah.
Very exciting.
No, that clears the place out.
We were talking about the difference between this. Nice turn.
Oh my gosh, did you notice that?
Nice turn. We were just talking about parents and parents.
The young girl who's need a parent was here.
Yeah.
I know. The last one's gone.
She's the only one that didn't have.
Wow. Jenny's a high energy person, by the way. High energy. Is she from here?
She was at Greenwood for several years before she came.
She goes to school to Greenwood.
She worked at Greenwood.
That you worked
Where they all to go and everything.
Okay, good. I recognize the face.
Okay.
Okay. We will move into agenda item 3, strategic discussion. And the board members will participate in a dialogue focused on typically selected pertinent topics. However, this evening we've made a decision to discuss budget, the board budget priorities aligned to the work that's been ongoing on our budget. As you can recall, or as you may recall, the board provided input to the administration regarding board-identified budget priorities in January of this year. And then our first look at projected revenue and critical new budget requests occurred at our special budget meeting on April 21st. And that meeting resulted in several requests for additional information from administration for our ongoing budget discussions. So based on board member feedback to board officers, we will continue our budget discussions during this component of our board meetings for tonight, and I assume for the June 10 study session as needed. In addition, each of you will see before you some of the items that you requested, which is a 2013-14 board budget book. And then we received additional documentation on board docs, I think this afternoon or this morning. These are all related to some of the additional information that you requested. I think at this time administration is also preparing some budget sheets to kind of show that look similar to last year's budget sheets, but they will include a column for 2014-15 spending and then some type of a narrative that will provide a description or information of what that change is. And then hopefully these will all then be printed after approved, will then be printed available to all staff in September. So if I missed anything there, Dr. Ritter, you might remind me. But we have a full agenda this evening. However, we also agree that this is one of the two most important jobs of our service. And so while we will watch the time, but we are not going to set a limit specifically to our discussion. So just a couple things to keep in mind as we move forward with this discussion is just if you have comments to questions, be brief and to the point so administration can track what it is we want. And then listen with respect till all have finished their speaking points. Let's have one speaker at a time and keep the discussion focused. And then we want to give all members an opportunity to speak at least once before taking a second opportunity. I may call on you. It's the teacher in me. I can't help it. So if you don't say anything, I may call on you if you want to have a question or comment. But you certainly have the right to tell me you're not ready to talk at this time. So anyway. Yeah, just to decline, respectfully decline to speak. But anyway, so that's just some things to keep in mind as we move forward. So, Dr. Ritter, will you get us started on our strategic discussion?
I will. First of all, I want to thank you, all of you, for input and questions that you gave us, and hopefully we responded accordingly. Mrs. Bush, really appreciate the reference to Parkway and their materials. It really gave us the idea of that single sheet that you see. And so I'd like to have all of you go to that single sheet, if you would, please. It's not the narrative. It's the single sheet that's it's in your board docs. Do you have a stop copy? That's this one here. Yeah,
it's number 13.
Number 13. Number 13. We're going to start there. As you're pulling up number 13, each of you should have received, and you requested a budget book, and you have that. And so what we did was pull up, this is the security page, budget. Got it? Okay. And what we did was we basically just ran that one sheet, and we're going to eventually come back in June. We're going to come back in June with a sheet for each and every area of the budget with that listing so that you can see what it is. The one thing that we're going to do, you have at the bottom of it, here we go. At the bottom of it, we are going to, because it's been recommended by Dr. Frederick, we will put a brief narrative at the bottom of each page to help explain the differences, okay? So note that as well. So we will do that. So what you have in front of you then is the list of expenditures and appropriations by categories. Then you have your budget years, 2010, 11, all the way through budget year the next year, 2014, 15. Then you can see the changes that occurred. That's exactly what you were looking for. And so anyway, I shouldn't be saying what you were looking for. That's what I was hearing you say, okay? I'm not sure what you were looking for. But anyway, on that note, though, before we go any further, we want to make sure you're okay with that. And then we will come prepared on the 10th with, and get to you ahead of time, a listing of every department division as you see it here, okay? Anything you would like to add to that? Anything that you would see that needs to be changed on that piece?
Yes.
How much additional staff time is it taking to focus on this particular piece of the process?
Well, I have given the budget manager a heads up that this would probably be coming his way. He does have a budget analyst that helps him as well, and they will probably spend quite a bit of the next 30 days. Or
I think it would be helpful just to know, just to have it, because this is kind of a new process, at least at this point of the process. It'd be helpful for me to know the staff time that it takes to get it to this point.
Sure.
Thanks.
Good.
I can't pull it up on my computer, but from what Andy has shown me, it's to a great extent what ends up in the budget book in September.
Right.
So it's not anything different than what they do. We're asking for it before we approve it rather than after it.
Correct. And but also we're adding the anticipated budget.
Yes.
Right, and the reason why typically it comes in September is, we close things June 30. We then know what the budget will be, and we then spend most of the month of July and part of August preparing the budget book.
Let me suggest, because I think I'm the issue here, is that it doesn't have to be printed up like this. We just need to see it, and those changes can be made in July, August, and September. But what we're doing is looking at what your intent is, and once the year end is through, then you can make those adjustments. I'm not asking for this printed book at all, because that's a waste of time and effort. We just want to see the documents electronically.
And that's about 65 pages worth or something like that. Eventually,
This
we'll come up-
section?
yeah,
Something like that.
it'll be about 65 pages worth. Okay. Now you have the budget book. I'm making sure everybody got a copy of the budget book. All right. Then the other thing, I guess, other than that, the narrative. You have the narrative, okay, and that's a sheet that you have. It has different colors on it.
Number 8.
Yes, number 8.
Yeah.
That request was made as well, and so that's the narrative. And so it's a real one-page shot as to, and the language is there to support. So is there anything that you would like to see changed, or is that what you really were looking for? Okay, okay. All right.
And these are the requests that came.
Right.
That rose to the top.
Right.
For critical issues.
For critical, yes. Mm-hmm.
I have 2 different copies of the 14-15 budget projections, one in white and one in yellow, and there's a difference of $2.5 or $6 million in the bottom line. The latest one we received at our last meeting. I don't mean to take you off.
What's the fund balance change?
Minus $250,000.
That's the latest direction.
Yeah, no, I know that. From what I can tell, the difference is both in critical needs, and which obviously weren't in this copy, and committed expenditures. Can you? Did we get a sheet of committed expenditures?
Yes.
They're about $552,000.
I believe it's number 6 on board docs.
Number 6?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
This is the back again.
And one last question, maybe. What do you anticipate our carryover will be this year? I know what you said that were one-time expenditures.
Well,
My question is, what do you think our carryover will be?
We went into this year with about a 19% fund balance reserve. We budgeted a reduction of $2.6 million in the reserve, which would leave us with 16.2%. I have mentioned to the board that the revenue will be slightly under that, but it won't change that percentage significantly. Expenditures, the big wild card is, as we get near the end of the year, is whether or not people spend their budgets or not. And I do want to remind the board that a consideration is the transportation facility, whether that comes out of the fund balance or out of bond funds at a later date. But right now, with the budget the way it is, we would end the year at 16.2%. I did run the numbers, and if the board elects to fund the transportation facility out of the reserve, that would lower that reserve percentage to 14.6%.
At this point, I guess those are the documents that were requested. At this point, I'm just curious if there's any other questions coming from the board. Mr. Lee?
Just a question on the transportation. I think I asked you this, and I don't know if the cost for lease finance as opposed to taking it out of the reserve. Operating, what the impact would be on the operating fund if we did an LPC for that $2.6 million. I'm not sure you can take it out of bond funds. I don't know. You may be able to do that, but what if we did an LPC? What would that?
What would the annual amount?
What would the annual amount be?
Okay, we'll get that for you.
When you say, Steve, that it may come out of the bond, that is, if the money's available, the bond was written in a way that would allow that latitude.
The bond was written away. The ballot language was written that would allow that, yes.
We've done that in the past where
yes.
we intentionally make the language somewhat accommodating for unforeseen expenditures. I guess one of my questions is kind of projecting ahead. This week is National Teacher Week, I believe.
Yes.
Today, the Missouri Legislature celebrated that by cutting our funding by $6.5 million a year going forward. I looked at our 2013-2014 budget book, and if we cut out all of our athletic programs and all of our music, art, and PE education in the district, we could absorb that cost. So that gives you kind of the magnitude. When you look at $6.5 million a year, that's what you're talking about. Getting rid of all your athletic programs, getting rid of all your music, art, and PE programs across the district. So that was a good celebration that we had in the Capitol today by overriding the governor's veto and deciding to put money in a billionaire's pocket instead of into the schools in Springfield. So, question I have, what I would ask the board to consider is, I see a very important need in the college and career specialist budget item. It's a $322,000 expense. As we move forward with Common Core, and as we put an emphasis on kids being ready for college or career, and being able to access scholarships and grants and everything else that goes into that, I think having dedicated folks at each high school for that purpose is important enough to fund that this year. And I'd like to know whether there's, I guess, consensus on the board to do that. Because I think it is an important enough budget item.
I guess my comments and maybe questions a little bigger than a specific item, because when I was our budget process has been different this year, with more input earlier, but still with, I think, some improvements to make in the whole thing. Then when I look at these scores of the budget request for critical needs that were there, and I know there's a whole list of things that weren't approved, it ranged from 2,700 to 1,106. And that to me was a huge difference at that point. And I can tell you there would be some items on here I personally would take out and some ones that weren't funded that I would put in. But I'm not sure that's what we ought to be doing. I really, if that's what we ought to be doing, then I want to do it long before now. Because now I agree with Mr. Hosmer. I was a counselor in the school system. So I believe those people are needed, but I thought the discussion was that we're not sure they need a master's degree in guidance and counseling to be, I think I'm correct there, and that was part of the discussion, that we're going to look at that because everybody agreed it was pretty well needed, but we're thinking maybe those people could be qualified differently and not have to have that degree. So I start to be, because if we get to pick, and then I'm afraid I'm going to be scratching out some of these that somebody else has thought was important, and there's some that weren't approved that I think ought to be on that list if it was me just making the budget. So I guess I think our budget process has not been perfect, and it won't be perfect next year, but if there's some things we want to do to add or take out, then I think as a board, I think probably the process came down to where when we did our rating and we had, Mr. Hosmer and I had I forget the number, Andy, whatever it was, but it had about 6 or 7 bullet points under it. Well, the reason I put it number 1 was teacher salaries, and I really didn't care about some of the other bullet points that were there. So I'm ready to continue to refine the budget process, so if we have specifics that as a board that we reach at least, I know everybody loves the word consensus. I just want to vote, and if it's 4-3, fine, it's on. If you lost, you lost, because we could spend days trying to reach consensus. And if there are things we think should be there before it ever gets to cabinet, then we ought to be saying that's what we want on there, in my opinion, if that's what we really feel like is going to make the difference. So I'm leery now of changing and putting in unless we decide we want to spend more than $3 million on critical needs, and we want to go down the list based on the process that's already been in use. And I mean that's one of the things I'm willing to do. If people say we want to spend another $500,000, then let's go down the list and look at those numbers and see where they are and include those if that's one of the suggestions. But I just feel uncomfortable based on the process starting to pick and choose, because if so, I may want to scratch out some of these that are there, because I think it's a process, and I think if we want to be more involved with specifics, we want to do it earlier, and they'll be up here at the top of the list because the board said we want these 2 or 3 that are there. So that's my only concern at this point. I would be in favor of adding more critical needs based on our current process if we just decide we want to spend an amount of money and we go down the list further and include the next 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it is.
There is one thing that we were going to share with you tonight that I think is important, and it is a timely situation tied to the counseling that we just talked about. And Dr. Harrell has something he'd like to share with you that came forward from the University of Missouri, and it's along the line of what you just mentioned, Mr. Renner, and that is basically it's not the counselor per se, it's more the peer type of thing that they're going to suggest. Go ahead.
I mentioned it at the last budget meeting that we're having conversations with the University of Missouri in a program called Missouri Collegiate Advising. This is an opportunity to partner for quite a bit less dollars than we're talking about at this point, for possibly 2 positions that would be very similar to what you were just mentioning, Mr. Be an individual that would work with college-bound students and first generation college-bound students, with a focus on schools that have not had as high a percentage of college-bound individuals and have a high free and reduced lunch rate as well. So in relationship to this position it's called a near peer position. So it's a student who has just graduated from the collegiate level, could be in multiple areas. They would work a maximum of 2 years. It's just a 2-year position maximum before they would be replaced by someone else in order to keep that near-peer relationship. And they would work with students throughout the high school, all 4 grades, but obviously they're focused with the juniors and seniors on one-to-one meetings, on getting through the FAFSA process, the enrollment process, application process, contacting different schools, visiting schools. They would help these students to set a range of goals from colleges or universities they probably are going to be very apt to meet the requirements, to even aspire to some college and universities that might push them. We had another phone conversation this morning with Mizzou and have an interested school, and I'm actually making contact with another school. The opportunity here for approximately $50,000, $25,000 per position, we could put this position in. The other nice angle to that is during the school year, Mizzou will work with us. Most of the funding for these positions actually come from external sources. And so we very well may receive more funding to reduce that $25,000 per position as the year goes on. It'll be a great opportunity to see how this works within our district, to gather some great benchmarking. They have some desirable contacts and measures that they put in that are very specific and very involved in the school and the approach for what we're trying to reach, so that we would have good measures already designed and comparable measures. This program has been around for 7 years and is a nationwide program at about 26 different universities.
Anyway, that just supports what you were just saying. So anyway, it's something that we're looking at, and so it gives you an example of flexibility. Yes.
I agree very much with Mr. Renner's philosophy in terms of what we should be doing at this point. We've spent a lot of time over the last couple years, really, since I've been on the board, trying to revise the process, get to a point where the board feels comfortable with the process. It's never going to be perfect, but I think we have a pretty good start in terms of some real collaborative input and some real parameters in terms of how requests landed where they did. I'm really glad to hear that we're exploring the program with University of Missouri because I have a daughter that's getting ready to graduate from college, and she's applying for exactly these kinds of positions all over the country. And school systems are accessing this kind of talent and this kind of energy, and if we're not taking advantage of AmeriCorps types of positions or VISTA kinds of positions, we are really missing out on, I think, some good opportunity to do some good kind of work. I would be hesitant to support a blanket request of $300,000 to go specifically for career and college counselors, because I think I've heard over the last couple years also some indication that there may be some ability to restructure what we do within the counseling program. I know Dr. Ritter and I were talking about this at dinner. It's something that I've said all along. We're paying some very high level, very professionally trained counselors to do clerical work in registering. And I mean, I'm not trying to diminish that particular piece of what they do, but I think that there'd be some ways. So if we have a bridge year and have this access to this outside talent, maybe we give ourselves, maybe the board is saying, yes, this is the direction we'd like to have. We'd like to have that kind of presence and that kind of focus in our counseling area. But I really don't think that, I really think that should be coming from the counseling area to us versus us pushing it in at this time.
Okay.
I have a question of Dr. Harrell. So again, the cost to us for piloting, is that would be a pilot, or what would be the cost to us for a trial period of this, what you were talking about?
It would be, assuming we did not earn any or gained any external funding. So I guess kind of a worst case scenario, Dr. Frederick, to fund 2 positions, which the University of Missouri would commit to 2 positions, would cost us $50,000 for the 14-15 school year.
And do we have an idea of placing them at a specific high school to begin with?
Yes, we have one high school we've been working with already, assuming we really run under the presumption that we probably only have room for 1 position, but they're willing to offer us 2 because they did get the full grant. They weren't sure if they were going to. And so I'd like to have conversations with another high school. There's 3 of our high schools that qualify that they would be willing to work with. And so there would be another one of those 2 I'd like to have a conversation with, but I have not had that conversation yet. We just found out today they could go 2 positions.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any other questions? Mrs. Bush?
Jerry does want to. Oh, he looked like he did.
Yeah, I got questions on my face, don't I? A good politician like today, I agree with Mr. Hosmer and Ms. Callan both, but the thing I would be concerned about as far as specifically saying let's add 300 and so many people, I think what he wants to do, the task that you're wanting to accomplish is critical. How we do it, I don't know if that's the best way for us to decide how to do that, but what you want to do, I think that's why I agree, whether it's restructuring, redoing, whatever, I think the college career is really important. I don't know that adding 300,000 to it and adding 3 or 4 people, I don't know the solution, but the strategic issue, which is one of my concerns with the whole budget, is Dr. Frederick was talking about, some of our most critical responsibilities as a board, and one is the strategic plan, putting our strategic plan together, and I still feel a little disconnect between the budget and the strategic plan. And I know on this, I appreciate where does it fall, but none of this falls within the strategic plan as far as the connect. I'm not saying it's not there. I'm just saying, why do I do school nursery? What does that do from a strategic planning standpoint? And I think the narrative that you're talking about doing some of that thing, that can be addressed in that. I mean, I would find that valuable as, how do I connect this budget to the strategic plan? How does it go? Because if it doesn't match the strategic plan, we don't need to be doing it. And I'm not saying there's stuff in there that doesn't. I'm just saying, I just think when we approve a budget, that needs to be very consistent with our strategic plan. Because we got a great strategic plan, the 3 goals that we got and those indicators that we got are really good. And how does that match up, much like you did here? And why is that important? I appreciate the fact of adding I'm going to pick on Gene. Health service, increasing the health services. Why is that important? Just adding people, that's one thing. But why is it important for those kids to be healthy when they come to school every day? There's a direct benefit, and I think that's something important that you can tie to the school, to the strategic plan to do that. And so I just picked one off there, but I'm thinking more like when we get the full budget, how do we connect all that to the strategic plan? Strategic plan's got to lead the budget.
It does for us. It does, but we need to put it in language.
I don't see the connection between the two without understanding that. I just want to make sure that the two are congruent and they match up. Otherwise, we're not doing what the plan says just because we've been doing it forever. So.
Okay, we have had several minutes to now talk about the guidance and counseling. Is there any other topics on the budget at this point that anyone would like to talk about? Question, yes.
Just a quick one. We are down the road on this a little bit, and I don't want to start all over, but I just want to suggest for next year, I don't think we've used data a whole lot either to help, at least the board hasn't. You all may have. The board hasn't used data to really help focus. My personal interest, as you all know, is reading by third grade, and I think several of us are interested in how do we take care of non-Title schools that have almost Title I numbers. What do we do? What do we work? What works in the Title I schools? I would like to spend the fall looking at 15-16 with a real emphasis on what's it take to make every child successful, and be driven by data on that, and spend quite a bit of time. So by December, January of next year, we can really see how those connections happen. The strategic plan is kind of mom apple pieing the flag, okay? Yeah, who doesn't want those things? But I think we need to be more focused even within the strategic plan. So my recommendation is we're kind of moving forward on this. We've got some things. It may need to be adjusted over time this year, who knows? But can we start in fall of this next year and really look at numbers and say, how do we drive these two things? Or
You're going to start getting numbers on focus schools. You're going to start getting numbers in August on the behavior text. I saw some data today that was just impressive. You're going to start getting numbers on the social workers. I saw that data two weeks ago. So you're going to get all kinds of data.
That's what
and that's going to be driving a lot. And Mr. Renner was always asking that question, so we've got it for you. And so we've had this conversation too. Dr. Frederick and Mr. Hosmer and I have had that conversation. So that'll be coming your way, and it's part of the OSRs as well. And so the data in the OSRs are there too. So. No, we are bringing that data to you, and then making the connection to 15-16. Yeah, that's where we're at. 15. Wow, that's fast. But anyway, 15-16 is going to be part of the conversation. So, okay.
We have now been talking for about 30 minutes, just not quite 30 minutes. So, if everyone is okay, Mr. Renner, you still have a question?
No, there were 118 requests, and somebody. Who did the board decide we're going to stop at $3 million? No, I didn't think so. So you all decided $3 million. So see, that's where I'm saying I'm not so sure, because we don't know what 36 or 7th or 8th or 9th and 40 are, or 41, and maybe we don't need to go down to 118. But if the board would decide to spend another, I'm just making this number up, $500,000 on critical needs, we don't know what those are. Based on the process that's there, we don't know out of the 100, we know the 35, and we don't know what those would be. So if I said spend another we said spend another $500,000, based on the current process, you've got those already. You don't have to go do something else to get those. So, I mean, in a whole budget discussion, and you just told us about the, reserve, I think that'll be one of our options to do, is to maybe spend some more money or not spend any based on what they did to us today. So maybe cut this off earlier or something. And the other thing I think I want to know is that we're going to finally approve a budget sometime in June, and it's going to have critical needs, it's going to have continuing needs, and it's going to have salary and benefits. Based on that, what are the outcomes, so that when we're talking about this in February or March, we can say what we approved and the process we approved made a difference, because here's the data that shows we did it correctly, or we spent some money there, but It just, and some of it would be, salaries are, we need to keep attracting and keeping the best qualified people. And there, I'm sure Mr. McKenna could show us some things that show why we were able to do that. And some of these might be subjective, but if we don't have some outcomes to say what we did has made a difference, we shouldn't be doing this again next year. We shouldn't be funding those things, because if the increase in step-up staffing is the most important of 118, we ought to have something that shows us, yes, it was, and here's why, and that's why we either need to keep it or expand it or whatever. There ought to be something that tells us we did the right thing, or the process wouldn't give us that or something, because I actually learned that at a meeting when they said, you need to know what that is, so you better quit sending me to the things, because they just said, unless you know what the outcomes are going to be, you can't then know if you even did the right thing or not. And sometimes we'll do the wrong thing and fund the wrong things, and they won't have made a difference, and then we'll have to change. But I won't know next year. I'm going to say we funded 35 items, and is anything any different? We funded 4 new counselors, and we're at the state average. And what?
We're ready to share that data. The problem is it does take time to implement and roll out, and that's what the problem is.
But I think we should know ahead of time what we're
anticipated is what you're saying.
What we're expecting, so that we know if we've met it or not. Otherwise, we don't even know if we've met anything.
I think I hear what you're saying, and that is that we might need to add an additional component to our budget process next year and talk about what did we spend money on the year before, and what can you tell us about how that's working. Yeah. And that would be would need to be sometime in the spring, which we may not have the data for a 1-year time, but certainly if we could get any kind of information. So, okay, well, any other, Mr. Hosmer?
Right now, the projected fund balance will be 16.2% if we fund the transportation facility out of the bond, correct?
No, that
14.8.
14.6.
No, out of the bond.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Bond.
Out of the bond. You're correct.
16.2%.
We misunderstood.
And I'm assuming, well, I don't want to assume. So the initial budget requests, Mr. Renner talked about the fact that there was a score given to the 35 that made the cut. Do those numbers go on down? Yes. Because I talked about the counseling, and I know Dr. Frederick doesn't want to continue to talk about that, but I talked about it. But it wasn't something I just pulled out of thin air, because it came off of a budget request, meaning you all said this was really important. And I, as a board member, said, hey, I think it is really important. So it's not something that Mr. Hosmer's up here thinking, by God, we need to do this at Central. But having said that, I can see where me cherry picking something that out of 85 things that are important may not be the best use of our time as a board. But I do think setting a reserve is important for this board. And when I first came on this board 8.5 years ago, we had a conversation around this board about where we wanted a reserve to be set. And at that time, we wanted to get 10%. We talked about that. We want to be at least 10%, and we had discussions about why too high of a reserve wasn't good, and obviously why too low of a reserve is not good. So I would like to see, what it would look like if we funded an additional $1 million this coming year. What would be there? Not that we have to do it, but that we're at least doing it strategically, and with the input of administration, so that if we wanted to, as a board, say we're okay with lowering that reserve, then we could do that, and we could do it again without me cherry picking something that I like and Jerry cherry picking something he likes. I mean, we've done that in the past. We did it with Parents as Teacher. One of the first budgets I sat in on, we cherry picked and said we want to fund this. So I don't know if that was the right thing to do, but we did it. So you're looking at me like you got a question.
I just one statement of caution is that the reserve should be addressed more in terms of one-time expenditures. If we are going to fund a deficit with ongoing expenditures, at some point you're going to have to make that up. So if we fund $1 million deficit with ongoing expenditures, we can't continue to fund that $1 million deficit. So that's just
even after the economy takes off and money flows from money just flows from.
But that's why we need those projections of revenue and expenses.
Right.
Which.
We have one.
But the comment
question,
on
Mr.
reserves, I just think that's a strategic discussion that we need to have of where do we want the reserves. Is it 10% is too low because that's the minimum we can have. But it doesn't need to be 20.
Well, the board approved.
I don't know what the number is, but it's.
The board approved a policy which indicates that the board should strive to maintain a fund balance of at least 15%. But in no case should it ever drop below 10%. And if it drops below the 15%, the board should develop a plan. The board, along with administration, should develop a plan to get it back above the 15%.
And I'm happy to talk about guidance and counseling all evening, Mr. Osmer. I think it's very important. Now, I did have an opportunity to spend some time at Kickapoo this week and talking about their Kickapoo University, and I would in the future like to have them come and give us a little bit of overview of what they're doing, because they have two teachers that have taken on doing something very similar to what we're talking about and providing some specific guidance, counseling, maybe not so much traditional guidance and counseling, but helping students with internships and with sponsorships and with shadowing and with getting them to a position of where they feel comfortable going to a college campus and filling out scholarship forms. And I think it's a bit of what we're talking about. So hopefully we can get them before us to talk about that soon. It's an amazing program that they're doing. So anyway, I guess we could conclude our discussion for tonight at this point with Dr. Ritter. In conclusion, what have you heard from us that we want from you, or we would like to hear from administration at our next study session? So
basically what I was hearing is that a single sheet coming out of the budget book, including 14-15, that this sheet right here, okay, and it's going to be per division, per department, along with a narrative, okay, at the bottom to help explain it. All right, so we're going to come with that. The other thing that I'm hearing is we had that narrative sheet, okay, and I'm hearing that if there is more numbers, Mr. Renner was asking, and we could come in with that extra sheet with further narratives of those that were not recommended, okay, by administration, we could do that. The third thing that I heard was and I didn't hear this, but I want to let the board know.
You heard it.
I know. I've been thinking. I'm really hearing it through Mr. Hosmer's comments. When May 16th hits, the legislature's done. We're going to have a set revenue. That may be an adjustment. We don't know. Okay, as far as more revenue, maybe less revenue. So we're going to have to come with that adjustment, whatever that's going to be, to the board as well. And so to me, those are the things that I heard today as far as what is needed. Along with, I'm hearing support for Dr. Harrell's work with the University of Missouri in the counseling area. So I think we're going to go ahead and pursue that. Okay?
Thank you.
And then I guess one last thing I want to follow up with. Do we have consensus on the board that we want to look at what was next on the list, up to $1 million. But as Mr. Chodes has recommended, they should not be ongoing costs, but perhaps things that we want to look at to do next year that it's not so much an ongoing cost. I mean, is that what I heard?
I guess because some of these are ongoing.
Yes, they are.
Some are, some are. Almost all of them are ongoing. So,
those aren't the ones, though.
But I would just like to see the next ones in order and highlight those that aren't ongoing, so that we would know that.
Sure.
You know, because this 15%, 16.2, 14. There's a lot of percentages, but that for us, 0.5% is a lot of money. I mean, it's a lot of money that you could spend on some even ongoing programs and still be where we want to be. So I'd like to see them in order and know which ones are one-time costs and which would be ongoing, to decide if we want to do that, or based on the unknown, stay where we are.
I suppose if we have that information, we can look at it, but it doesn't mean that we all have to.
Right, we'll have that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Do we have public comments to address agenda items at this time, Mrs. Luton? We do not. Okay. So we'll move on into Section 5, information. As was discussed at the regular meeting on April 29, a goal of the board administration is to bring upcoming action items to the board study session. So tonight we have several information items coming before us as updates. And this is something that we can look at from last week we asked for, and this week here it is before us. So thank you, Mr. Chodes. And these are updates related to various construction bids that are currently in process, not ready to come to us for discussion or really for vote, but as update. And then these may come to us at the May 20th regular session for vote, because our bids will be in by that time. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so this is kind of a new thing now for us to do information construction item updates.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Ritter. It's my pleasure to bring these updates to you this evening. The first item is the Fremont Elementary, which is part of the 2013 bond projects. As we look at this project, it's made up of two components. It totals 73,165 square feet. Just over 20,000 square feet will be renovation of the existing, and a little over 53,000 square feet of new construction. Bates and Associates are the design architects for this project. The project was advertised on April 12th and 13th. The bids will be received on May 13th at 6 p.m. We open the bids on May 14th at 9 a.m. And currently there are 4 general contractors that are plan holders that are potential bidders for the project. And pending the bids come in a way that we can come forward, administration anticipates bringing an action item on the May 20th board meeting for vote at that regular meeting.
Any questions? Okay, very good. Thank you. Next.
The next several items are major repair projects. This first one is with boiler and coil replacement projects at Central High School, Holland, and Pittman Elementary Schools. It's part of the 2014-15 major repair budget, and the central project is to remove and replace the steam and chilled water coils in the existing air handling unit serving the original gymnasium. At Holland and at Pittman, it's replacement of the existing boilers, pumps, and associated control systems. Malone, Finkel, Eckhart, and Collins is the design engineer for the projects. These projects were advertised on April 26th and 7th, and the bids will be received and opened on May 7th at 10:30 a.m. And we also anticipate bringing this forward on the May 20th meeting for a vote as well.
Very good. Any questions? Okay, next to 5.03.
This project is for ceiling and fascia modifications for the main and lower lobbies at the Hillcrest High School. As part of the 2014-15 major repair budget, Hillcrest will receive new ceilings in the main lobby, the basement lobby, and 4 classrooms with modifications to existing electrical and lighting. The work will also include modifications to the existing fascia on both the south and the east elevations of the site. Esterly Schneider and Associates is the design architect for this project. The project was advertised on April 26th and April 27th. We actually had the bid openings this afternoon, and we are going through those bids now and evaluating, and we anticipate bringing a recommendation to the board for vote at the next meeting on the 20th.
Do you recall how many you got? How many bids you received?
I would have to defer to Mr. Bishop. That would be
What
2.
was that? 2?
Okay, next, door replacement at Jarrett Middle School and Portland Elementary.
This is for a door replacement project at that Jarrett Middle School and Portland Elementary. I would just mention that these are, it's partially a security issue. We have old original doors that have skeleton keys still, and so that's part of this. So it is within the part of the 2014-15 major repair. Jarrett would be to replace and upgrade existing doors, frames, and associated hardware throughout the facility. And at Portland Elementary to remove, replace existing doors, hardware, and associated fire alarm equipment. At Portland, with some of the original doors were tied in with the fire alarm system as well, and there's some things we're working through with that. Buddy Webb and Company is the design architect for this project. The project was advertised on April 19th and 20th. We received bids this afternoon at 1:30 p.m. Mr. Bishop, how many bids? 2. We received 2 bids, and we are evaluating those bids. We have, as we just had the bid openings on several of these projects this afternoon, we're in the process of evaluating before we bring that recommendation forward to you at next meeting.
Next, 5.05, facility improvements and parking lot expansion.
This is actually for the Carver Satellite Bus Barn facility. So this would expand the current bus parking area to allow for 18 additional. It would demolish the current office building and install a new modular unit with permanent foundation, which would put a larger facility there with restrooms to be able to accommodate for that size staff. We set the scope of this project to maximize our efficiencies with transportation, looking at how many buses would be ideal to run out of that south satellite, and that's what this is actually planned for. Ireland Architects is the design architect for this project. The project was advertised and for bid on April 19th and 20th. We received the bids on May 1st at 2 p.m. The estimate of probable cost for that project was $250,000, and we'll be bringing a recommendation forward to you at the next meeting for that.
The facility has 2 bathrooms and plenty of room for the transportation staff.
Yes, it's a 1,200 square foot
okay.
modular unit. It has a private. It will have a private office, so the supervisor can meet privately with employees, and has a separate men's and women's restroom facility with it.
Great.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, moving on to installation of new fueling system.
This project is for the new transportation center on Pythian. As we acquired that property, we knew that we were going to need to put in new fueling tanks there. Environmental Works, Inc. is the design engineer for that project. We advertised for bids on April 19th and 20th. We received bids for that this afternoon at 2 p.m. We had 1 bidder. But the bid appears to be favorable, but we will be evaluating that and bringing that recommendation to you at the May 20th meeting.
questions? Okay. 5.07, the grease
The grease interceptor. That is actually, it's part of a compliance issue with the city of Springfield. It's part of the FOG program, as they refer to the Fat and Oils and Grease program. We have a number of facilities throughout the district that the city wants us to install these grease interceptors at. We've basically are working out a program with the city which we dedicate a certain amount of money to typically try to put in at least 2 per year and to work through to continue to get up to compliance with that. Malone, Finkel, Eckhart, and Collins was the design engineer for this, and it would be for Field Elementary and Mann Elementary. The project was advertised on April 26th and 27th. We'll actually be receiving and opening bids tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., and we anticipate bringing that for a vote on the May 20th as well.
I learned something new. I did not know we had a Springfield FOG. Fats, Oils, and Grease program.
Very important.
Okay, very good. We're moving on to component 6. Action items for vote. At this time, we do have one action item that requires a vote at this evening's meeting. And Mr. Wendt, are you going to tell us about that? Thank you.
We actually have some good news for our Sherwood Elementary 2013 bond project. SAP Design Associates was the architectural firm for that. Mr. Jim Stuffelbeam is with us in the audience this evening. One of the features that was part of the design for this project was to make this school a net zero capable. We also have designed in a safe room component as well. We advertised on March 22nd and 23rd for the bids. We received bids on April 24th and opened them on April 25th. There were 6 bidders for this project. The project also includes 5,500 square feet for the Boys and Girls Club, and according to the Boys and Girls Club contract that the board approved this past December, the Boys and Girls Club will be reimbursing the district a total of $1,086,612. As you look at the bid tab on the attachment there, DeWitt and Associates, local here in Springfield, was the low responsible bidder. They have a base bid of $14,624. We have highlighted all of the add alternates, which is part of the recommendation this evening. Alternate number 1 was to finish out some classrooms. Part of the strategy in developing alternates in a construction project is to help protect your main budget. And so what we did in this design process was actually we had 4 classroom spaces that we had in the base bid, just shelled the space out to where we could come back later and internally finish out the space if needed. That was not the case, but that was what alternate number 1 was. Alternate number 2 had to do with safe room upgrades. As we looked at putting that safe room there, there was additional doors and grading and other things, that components of that. That was alternate number 2. Alternate number 3 dealt with a PV panel starter package. As we designed this as a net zero capable, we don't have all the solar panels that would be necessary to actually make it net zero at this point. So we had a starter package, so that way we would actually put, it's roughly 88 panels, I believe, that would be on the roof. It helps tie into instruction at the facilities, being able to monitor what's going on, and as we are moving forward in that direction, we wanted to make sure that we did have some panels available there. The alternate 4 was for some additional parking. Alternate 5 was the monument sign. Alternate 6 dealt with some chain link fencing between some of the delivery areas and the play area. Alternate number 7 is to put some sod in some designated areas. One of the things that we've learned over many of our projects has to do with when we go with the seed and straw technique in trying to grow grass, especially near the right around the building and near the entrance areas. With the amount of rains and other things, we just lose so much. It washes away, and it takes quite a while to get that established. So we put that as an alternate to put sod in those areas. Number 8 is rolling window shades. Number 9, some cubbies and shelvings. Number 10 was one of the deduct alternates that we were not recommending. In the base bid of the project, we have the stained polished concrete, and this would have been a deduct if we would have chosen to go with a VCT regular floor tile instead, so we are not recommending that. Alternate number 11 is to go from a VCT floor in the gymnasium to a resilient athletic flooring. Alternate number 12 is a.
What that is?
Well, it's like a cushioned sheet good, if you will. It appears from the surface it looks like wood, but it is a sheet good that's actually put in place. Alternate number 12 is a telescoping bleachers, so it would have 3 rows of bleachers available. Alternate 13 is a waterless suppression, and that is dealing with a fire system for the MDF room, which is waterless, which is something that we wanted to put in place so that in case that we had a fire and the sprinklers went off in the building, that in this area where our main servers and things are in the building would be protected. The alternate number 14 was a TPO roofing, which was a different type of roofing material. The base bid had what we prefer to have, which is a 4-ply roofing, so we are not asking to take that alternate. And the last alternate has to do with some netting as a protection from the golf course to the play area. So when we add up all the alternates with the base bid, it comes to a total of $15,109,000. Our estimated, the budget number that we were looking for on this project was roughly $15,400,000. And so we are within that, and we are pleased. And so with that, the funds are available within the 2013 bond funds. And our recommendation is that the board authorizes the superintendent or his designee to approve DeWitt's base bid plus alternates 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 12, 13, and 15 for a total of $15,109,000 for the new Sherwood Elementary School.
Do we have questions at this time? Yes, Mr.
One, I would applaud SAP. If you can have 6 bids within less than 10%, you've done a hell of a job in your specs and your design criteria. Rarely do you see that kind of compactness in bids. So not taking away from you, Scott, I'm sure you did a good job too. But I'm impressed that they're that close. Even the alternates are relatively close, maybe one. So I would congratulate you on not only just being under budget, but good set of bids.
Any other comments, questions?
Mr.
Renner?
Sure that the $1,028,000, then that's going to be deducted from this 15, or
yes.
I know that's still the cost to us
yes.
initially, but eventually it'll be $1 million less than that.
Right. Our $15,000,004 number included what we anticipated getting from the Boys and Girls Club. Yes.
Mrs. Callan?
Just to clarify, then that would go back in, offset the bond funding, right? I mean,
correct.
Okay.
In the contract with the Boys and Girls Club, it's set up how that payment was through the portions of the construction. It's all outlined in the payments for that.
But it does go back. That is an important question, I think, because we're talking about it would be bond money.
I would anticipate that at the
operating
time
fund.
of how their installments come in and the payments, yeah. Well, let me just think through this for a second. Yeah, it would have to be. Yes.
It'd be bond.
Yeah. It would.
And is that figured in? So that would mean technically this project would be $1.3 million under what we anticipated, right?
No, we factored what we
Factored that in.
anticipated from the Boys and Girls Club into
Okay,
that.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah, I went back and looked at his report from the
giddy.
last meeting, and that this is a $15,109,000 contract. You take away the $1,086,612 reimbursement from the Boys and Girls Club, the net cost to us, to the district, is $14 million and change. We have $14,246,000 available in the bond budget. So this is below our budget by $220. We have $224,000 remaining for construction as we go through the project, which we're probably going to need.
And we do have some other contingency within the total project.
Right.
Yes.
Exciting.
Any other comments? Okay, so at this time, do I hear a motion that the board authorizes?
So moved.
I have a motion by Mrs. Callen. Do I hear a second to the motion on the floor?
Second.
Second by Mr. Rosenberry. This time we'll vote. Okay, very good. Moving on to 7.0 action items for separate consideration. We have several items for consideration this evening, items 7.01 through item 7.04, and they'll be presented to us this evening by Mr. Chodas. We will not vote on these this evening.
That's correct. Thank you. The first item is the sale of surplus real estate. That is the existing transportation facility on Chestnut. Missouri Revised Statute 177.073 requires that the board, by an affirmative vote of not less than 2/3 of all members, authorizes and directs the sale and transfer or lease of any property owned by the district. The board must make a determination that the property is not required for the operation of the school program. Approval of this action item does not specifically require the district to sell the property, but it allows the district to sell the property. And in any event, any potential sale of the property will be presented to the board for approval. Any questions?
What's the appraised value of that property?
It was 400. It was okay. 445.
And am I right in saying that that's not included in next year's budget as a revenue?
That's
item?
correct.
But that's a potential revenue item.
It is a potential revenue. Yes.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, moving on to 7.02, sale of surplus real estate, Pepperdine Learning Center. Mr. Chodas?
Again, this requires a vote of not less than 2/3 of all members to authorize the district to sell the property. And this is the property that's located at 1518 East Dale Street, formerly known as Pepperdine Learning Center. And I would, again, be glad to answer any questions.
I'll have the same question. What is the assessed value of this property?
We have not had that one appraised at this time.
And what has been its use up to this point?
It's been empty.
Excuse me, it was our alternative site.
It used to be our, right. When we did the whole Studi and Westport project, we anticipated that Bailey, Berry, and Pepperdine would be vacant and potentially sold.
But you will get an appraisal before
Yeah,
you list it?
yes, definitely.
I guess I have a question. Maybe this is not for you, Steve, but one of the things that I'm guessing this board is going to be talking about in the future. Norm, don't shake your head like you know what I'm going to say. Is an expansion of early childhood learning. And if you have an expansion of those programs, you often need space for those programs. And in the past, when the district has sold property, we haven't gotten a lot of money for that property. When we build property, we spend a lot of money. And when we build buildings, we spend a lot of money to do that. Have we, I guess my question is whether or not we've thought this through, that for getting a little bit of money for surplus property, that we're giving up buildings that could be used down the road for expansion of early childhood education or some type of pre-K or
I could probably speak to early childhood. The property at Pepperdine isn't probably an ideal location for us due to its proximity to Shady Dell. So I think if we were looking ahead, which we are, to expansion of early childhood, I think the current Sherwood would be a much more appealing property for us. It's one level. It's on the opposite side of town where we really need a facility. So we take what we can get, obviously, when it comes to space and early childhood, but I think that would be our preference if we had such.
And that's just important because when you sell it for $300,000 or $400,000, if you sell it for $300,000 or $400,000, you could renovate it for less than $1 million and have yourself a nice school versus building for $12 million.
There are
I want to
probably
make sure.
other uses for it as well. The current Sherwood being air conditioned, some other factors make it a little more appealing to us.
Mr. Hosmer, that's what I thought you were going to say.
All right.
So, in going back to when you were talking about the sale of surplus real estate transportation, what we're doing, and I had checked with you earlier on this pertinent facts. Number 2, that the board must make a determination the property is not required for the operation. This just allows us to sell.
That's correct.
So if you come forward and we have an offer, this does not say we have to take it.
That's correct.
It's just that we can entertain that idea. Okay. Yes.
I guess, Dr. Frederick, I'd push back a little bit and say, when I read the way this agenda item is written, it says to be surplus property which is not required for operation of the school program. What do we have in place that says either, or is it just our opinion? And I recall that there was a proposal at one time for a facility master plan, and it seems to me that without a facility master plan, making this decision is really difficult and maybe not particularly informed. I'll just leave it at that.
Ms. Callen?
I agree, Mr. Rosenberry. In general, I agree. But knowing the construction of Pepperdine and the way it's configured, I mean, it's a multi-story, probably, 100-year-old building? Is that in an area directly, the boundary bucks up to Sherwood, where we're putting a lot of new resources. So in general, I would agree, but with this particular property, I'm supportive of moving forward.
Yeah, as part of our facilities assessment, we went through and did a quick mock-up on this building, and it's not ADA compliant, it's not air conditioned, it doesn't fit any of the programmatical needs that we're aware of, so there are some challenges with it. Envelope, those kinds of things. So it is a very expensive, attractive nuisance at this point.
I think what I'm hearing is that would make the board more comfortable than if we could have that information. Provide that for us. Okay. Any other questions on Pepperdine? Okay. Moving on, purchase of real estate near Central High School.
Thank you. Central High School is in need of additional parking spaces. They're currently renting approximately 75 parking spaces from the Springfield Greene County Library District using the overflow parking lot across Jefferson Avenue. After the library indicated that they'd consider selling that parking lot, we had two appraisals commissioned. The appraised values were $149,000 and $152,000. The library and we agreed to split that difference. So we're asking that the board approve the purchase of that property for $150,500.
Questions?
My question is, I agree it's needed, no problem with that. Question is, where will that money come from?
We have currently identified the funds in this year's budget if the money is spent this year, because we're so close to the end of the year. We're not sure exactly when the closing might occur, and if we do not spend it this year, that money would roll over to next year and would fall to the fund balance. We would then look at potentially either identifying unspent funds out of next year's budget or using that fund balance that carried over.
But selling these other properties would then give you the money in the capital account.
That is correct. If we could look at that as well.
My concern, the board meeting documents in March, I believe, showed a transfer of funds from salaries to the purchase of this, and I have concerns about that.
Such as?
Taking money out of salaries for capital expenditure.
Each year, I think I've mentioned to the board before, not every position is filled from day one. Okay.
Yeah.
Just in general.
Well, yeah. Yes.
Mrs. Callan.
How much are we paying in rent per year to the library?
It would be approximately $50 times the 75.
50 times what?
Times the $75 to rent the parking lot. We were paying at one time, I believe, around $20,000 a year to rent that lot.
This
from
goes back to when the library moved south and the usage went down, but you all been paying rent for at least 10 years, maybe 12 now.
So it will pay for itself
You all.
over.
Sorry.
And
You're part of that now, Mrs. Bush.
Any other question?
Oh,
Do we anticipate additional monies to, unless it's been repaved or fixed recently? I recall it's a pretty rough parking lot.
Right. We will have to repave it.
Do we have an idea what that will cost?
Turn it over to the man.
We have an idea that will cost around $40,000.
I guess we will see that at another time and come before us.
Yes.
And you
More
do
formally.
And do you have a formalized agreement about the trailer? I go back to that in the sale. I don't want that to be a problem later on.
Right. That is not in the sale of the property. It's something we'll have to discuss and reach an agreement with them.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Well, moving on to workman's compensation excess insurance coverage.
The district's workers' comp excess insurance coverage will expire at the end of this month. Safety National has been providing the coverage since 2000, but we did market the program this year, and we received a low quote from Midwest Employers Casualty, which would result in a 13.6% reduction in premium with no changes in terms. The premium would be $106,142 annually. Since it is a reduction, the funds are in the budget. and we'd be asking that the board approve our agreement with Midwest Employers Casualty.
Is that a term that we can buy the one and then get 2 more, or is it just a 1-year premium?
Right now, it's a 1 year.
Any indication of why that? I mean, it's nice. We got a nice reduction, but
Why the reduction?
I think in years past, there has been some indication that it was because of steps that we took to kind of limit our.
Well, Scott Whiteman, who's our contact at A.J. Gallagher, says, quote, Safety National continues to underwrite your account as if nothing has changed. And I've been before the board before talking about our improvement in our workers' comp. To continue, he says, Midwest Employers was very impressed with the efforts you've made. So it's reflected in the quote.
And goes back to Bruce's comment about, kind of value for your money, doing things that then have a impact down the road, and this is a pretty significant impact down the road.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, thank you very much. So please refer, if you do have additional questions over the items that have been presented to us, please send those to Dr. Ritter as soon as possible. So these items will be placed as consent items for vote at the regular board meeting to be held May 20th. Okay. Section 8, action routine. We have several routine action items pertaining to minutes from previous board meetings, personnel, elections, promotions, terminations. So do I hear a recommendation to modify the minutes? Okay. Hearing none, we will move to agenda item 9.0, public comments to address non-agenda items. Do we have any public comments? Okay, none this evening. Okay, so we'll move right on to 10 comments from the board. Do we have any comments from the board? No. We'll start with legislative update.
First of all, I'm not going to talk about Senate Bill 509. It frustrates me. But anyway, the Common Core, it appears that it's getting way too much traction, and ultimately it's going to end up being a 1-year study. And they're shaping 2 committees to look at that. And really what it is just redefining or giving it a new title is what's going on there. So that's happening. Other than that, Senate Bill 509. And there's others, but those are the main ones.
I can't think of a good thing at all, Mr. Hosmer.
Not of one.
I know 493, the one with the vouchers. They got a lot of confidence right now, and they think they can run that one through too. And so that's
the
transfer bill, and
I don't think that's
vouchers. They think they can. I don't know they can, but they think they can run it through.
Is this vouchers for private schools, non-religious private schools?
Yes.
Yeah.
And is it just authorizing more of them, or anywhere in Missouri now? What's the specific of it?
It's really tied to the transfers, students transferring
But
out of
does it
unaccredited.
affect us, too?
No, it could eventually.
Unaccredited.
It could. It's
But right
it's
now,
not as tight as you would like it to be.
There is a positive thing, by the way, is they are attaching the term thing. That is happening, and there are 3 different bills, so it should be taken care of by the end of the session. What I'm talking about is the 3-year terms. Yeah.
Oh, the term thing. Okay.
That's still going.
Mrs. Callen?
I was really hoping the press would still be here, but I'm going to make this anyway because it really just irritates me. But once again, our local legislators have failed to listen to their constituents. All of us at this table represent more people than the state legislators do in the state reps in their districts. And I sent notes to at least 3 of them this morning and got a response, at least a response back from one. It was a canned response, and I'm going to save it because it pretty much says that he would never vote for anything that would jeopardize the funding stream for public education, and that he was convinced that this would not. So, but the other thing is, you know, as elected officials, we're often asked to support the candidacy of our state officials. And you know, just recently, and I won't call this person out by name, but I had a text message asking me if I would endorse, if an individual could add my name to his endorsement list. And I said, well, we probably would need to meet for coffee before I would do that. And that individual voted to override the veto. And it just irritates me from one perspective that someone would think highly enough, not of me, but maybe the position that all of us have on this board and the constituents that we represent and the respect I think that we have in this community to ask for a personal endorsement and then vote squarely against what is important for our students and for this community. And I was just going to ask, and I don't expect you to have this right now, Mr. Chodas, but do you know about how much we get from the state in terms of millions?
About
52 million. That's a lot of money for our local people to make up through a levy, but man, I'm tempted just because I am getting so tired of waiting every year to see what these other governmental entities who have traditionally been our partners to educate our children in this community continue to play ideologically driven political hardball, and I am really, really frustrated. So, but there, I'll get off my soapbox.
Any other comments?
I think there were two things. One is the political back and forth with the governor and the legislature was part of it, but the other is they just simply don't want to stand up to certain people.
Certain person.
A certain person. Well, and of course we have groups out there to go against it for fear of being primaried or whatever reason. They're just afraid to stand up and make the right choice. And they can say it's not going to do them harm all they want to, but we know better. In talking to people in the community, though, what I found is people really didn't understand the issue. That the media, it's a complex issue, the media didn't cover it well, and that I was still getting today questions about what is this about and what should I have known. So it's a problem.
Just one comment, I guess. I think we're kind of at a crossroads now that we can take two approaches. We can either kind of run off in a corner and hide and whine, or we can, what I think we should do is hold their feet to the fire. They've said they were going to be committed to public education. They said they were going to fund a formula through all this stuff. They never committed on paper and in a statute or in a bill, but they have said that, and it's public. I've seen it public. I've seen it in all their statements. I think we need to hold them to the fire. I'm not saying we're going to get that done. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm not saying we can get a bill next year that says they'll guarantee funding the formula. We've already done that once, and they didn't do it. So it's worth the paper it's written on. But I think rather than, and just like we told them before, you fund a formula, we're out of the game, guys. All you got to do is fund the formula. We're out of the game. You can play tax stuff. You can do all you want to, whether I agree with it or not. Fund a formula. We're out. You got MSBA. You got everybody off your back. Fund a formula. And I think the approach we need to take now is, we got to separate the issues.
Yeah.
Public school, public education, and play with your tax cuts, whatever you want to do, and put them on the spot to commit to. Right now, we couldn't get them to commit to public education because they had a tax cut on the same thing. So they can't cross that bridge from tax cut to harm to public education. But if we focus it and narrow it on public education, make them say, I don't agree with funding public education. And you'll see, I think, a lot of them crawl back in a hole and maybe do something. I don't know. But I think we need to now separate that and put it back to public education by itself. I mean, the milk spilled right now, and the only thing that's going to change it now would be some legal action, which will take years, and I don't even think a court would address it until some harm's done. But
well, two things are going to have to happen, Mr. Lee. One is there's going to have to be a downgrade in our credit rating. Number one. Number two, Kansas superintendents and districts filed suit and they won, and they eventually had to pay. And so, I don't want to follow Kansas that way, but we may have to. But anyway, number three is, well, I don't want to say number three. I'm not going to say it.
Their argument is they're doing statutorily what they're required to do to fund public education already, and that is 25% of the need. They're hanging their hat on that.
25% of what?
25%. I think there's some statute or something. The budget, 25% of the budget goes to public education, and they're meeting that requirement. That's their argument that they're saying, and that's what they'll say. And so they're already meeting what their responsibility is. So basically, they're pushing it off to future legislature, so they don't have to deal with it now. 2 years down the road, and they won't be there.
They'll be the lobbyists.
They won't be there. They weren't there when the 2005 funding formula was put into place. So I wasn't there, so why should I support that and worry about it? Which I said to one of them, this board in 1990 voted a $30 million bond issue to repair Central High School. I wasn't on that board. So can I stop making debt service payments? I wasn't involved in that decision. So I shouldn't have to be paying those debt services just because the board prior to this did this. I mean, that's the same logic that they're using of not making the commitment to fund the formula. And so, I mean, it's just absurd. And I can tell you don't want to know what happened the last 2 days in Jeff City with legislators and the bullying and the behind the scenes going on to make sure everybody got there to vote. And I mean, it'll all come out at some point, but you don't sequester representatives so they can't have cold calls and people talk to them and not let them go anywhere.
Really?
That's not right. Sorry.
Intriguing discussion. Mr. Hosmer has a comment.
The frustrating thing to me is that these things all kind of work together, and when you don't fund your public schools to the level they need to be funded, then you start seeing cracks in your public school and your public education. And then when you start seeing cracks in your public education, then you start seeing an economy take a hit locally. And when you start seeing an economy take a hit locally, then you start seeing an exodus of people from a city. And then 20 years from now, people are going to say, boy, what happened to Springfield? And they don't understand that when you keep doing these little things, you start putting cracks into the foundation of what we all feel is important, because we all have the same idea of having a strong public school system here in Springfield. But it seems like every school person, every board, every group that works with teachers or administrators just doesn't understand what's good for schools, because our legislators, with the exception of Charlie Knorr, and I'll give a shout out to Charlie Knorr for standing for public education. The other ones stood against public education. Either we're all wrong, every one of us, and every school board across the state, that we don't need this money, or this bill is not going to decrease funding for public schools, or they're wrong. I kind of think they're wrong. The other thing that is very frustrating is that this is not a 253 and 609 or 509. They were not bills that sprung up out of the soil of Missouri. They were not working class people in Springfield saying to our legislators, boy, we gotta have a tax breaks for casino owners in Las Vegas that own casinos in Missouri. We've got to have a tax breaks for Rex Sinkfeld. It was Rex Sinkfeld. It was his legislation. And you know, and Alec and these other groups, and it's just, there's just no dialogue with the school system. There's no dialogue with Missouri State. There's no dialogue with the city of Springfield. It's become a system of outside groups coming in saying you need to throw this legislation and we're going to vote for it lockstep. And if you don't vote for it lockstep, you're going to be punished. And I think you alluded to some of that. So, you know,
there will be more to come.
We've got to figure out our messaging on this, because obviously what the message we're sending out is not getting through to our legislators. Either we're wrong and we don't need money and we've got too much money, and getting rid of all our athletic budget and our arts and music teachers is just fine, or they're wrong. But something's got to change, because it's going to continue on.
I think we have to remember too, this is just the first step in a whole lot of steps and goals for Mr. Sinkfield, and that is to eliminate the income tax completely. And this is his first step to make that happen. You get a shortfall budget, you go down to tubes like Kansas. Here he comes with his white hat with a sales tax proposition or a fair tax thing to solve the finance problem of Missouri. I mean, it's create a crisis and work your way out of it. And that's the ultimate motive here, is to get rid of the income tax completely. And oh, by the way, we'll have collateral damage, which is our kids. And that's okay, which he's not too worried about anyway.
He can justify some.
He can justify that collateral damage because he's not supportive of public education at all. And so I just think there's a much bigger picture here, and it isn't going to stop. And, you know, I think legislators need to be held accountable, and if it means we need new legislators in the House, then we ought to be getting new legislators in the House. And so, you know, when you have a newspaper do a poll on the tax cut and it's 70% against it, somebody's not listening to your constituency in Springfield, Missouri. I mean, it was over 2/3 of the, now, which typically the people who respond to those kind of polls tend to be the extremes that are anti-government, anti-tax, and that. And that was 70% response that said, we don't think this is a good idea. And no one listened to them. They didn't listen to them, they ignored them. And so, to me, that's the, the issue, as Andy said, you know, them listening to one guy with $1 million instead of listening to 1 million people with $1 is just backwards. And the air is taken out of the sail in Jeff City, I know, by a lot of people, but we're not the first. We won't be the last, probably, but Kansas can correct their problem. We can't. We have no way to correct that problem.
Okay, great discussion.
Really
Not sure how to conclude it.
Really uplifting.
But we will press onward, continue to do the best we can and work at it. So, and as we all have, and we'll continue to. So, we're to the other section, or no, future issues. I'm sorry. Did we talk about future issues? We've talked about a lot.
And just a reminder that there's graduations coming up Thursday and Friday. Well, Wednesday, Thursday.
We have OTC, and we have Studi Wednesday.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
2 on Wednesday, Thursday and Friday.
Thursday and Friday, and so exciting times for us. And the governor's going to be speaking at the Kickapoo graduation Friday evening. So, and he asked how long, and I said 3 minutes.
You didn't handle that very well.
I thought I did because I was looking at Georgiana, and she was going to hold him accountable. But anyway, so no, it'll be fun. So hopefully you can make it.
Mr. Hosmer?
Certainly not as big a hit budget-wise, but I do think we need to look again at what the city's doing with tax abatements. You know, right now seems like 80% of the city of Springfield is blighted or potentially blighted. I didn't know that. I thought some of those places are pretty nice, but and the city then gives developers the ability to tax abatements on their developments, and city's okay with it because it doesn't really cost them anything, but we bear the brunt of that. And I think in the past we've kind of taken a please don't do that, or please think about it. I don't know if we say please don't do that. I think we say please be nice to us, or something along those lines. I know we have a city councilman that's fighting against that.
Who's on our
and I rarely agree with him, but you know, I think that, you know, it seems like that's the primary mode of development sometimes here in Springfield, and I think we need to maybe think about how we approach that in a more forceful way, especially in light of looking at $6.5 million less coming from the state than if we're also, you know, having money taken away from these tax abatements.
Who on the board's on the TIF commission?
Gene was the last.
Who on the board?
Well, TIF is different than some of the other ones. Yeah.
Oh.
Are you on the TIF commission?
Yes, but I don't represent the school district.
Oh.
Right.
Well, in the past, we've had board representation.
Yeah,
on that.
Gene Twitty was the last one.
Well-
The last meeting we had.
Then we need to have
Oh.
one replaced.
Yeah, we do.
We really haven't had a TIF meeting because of the.
Put me on and I get.
Most of them have not been TIFs. Most of them have been 353s or chapter.
Yeah.
Right.
Andy said that you don't go to the TIF commission.
And I don't know that we have any do we have representation on those at all, or?
They don't give us any representation.
The
TIF is the
the
only
last
one.
TIF that Springfield did was in the Republic District.
But the abatements, we don't have any.
But do we get notified by city staff when they're considering tax abatements so that we have the ability to go and speak?
No, sometimes we do get notified by the parties that are requesting the abatement.
We need to get a formalized process.
That might be something we talk about at our next city county.
Why would they tell us?
Okay.
Well, I just think that, you know, again, I think it's easy for the city it's somewhat easy for the city to offer that because there's not a lot of it coming out of their budget, but the library system and schools and I don't know what the numbers are, but it can be pretty big, right?
Yeah, I think we ought to formalize the communication there. I'd be glad to talk to Mary Lily Smith about how we do that.
Okay with everyone? Have any pursue that? Okay. That would be great. Thank you. Work on that. So, let's do our plus deltas. So please take a minute to record items that you liked and worked for you at this meeting tonight, and any suggestions for improvement for our deltas. The board will conduct an executive session following this meeting to discuss collective bargaining as provided in section 610.0219 RSMO. This time, do I have a motion to go into executive session following this meeting?
I'll move. Second.
Motion from Mr. Hosmer and a second from Mr. Rosenberry.
OT